Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and the way that I came across is as I follow you guys on Instagram, and you guys engage people very, very well on Instagram. And Alert Alberta has been around since 2006. And according to your website, the goal of Alert is to create safer communities for all of Albertans. Can you tell me a little bit about how you connect different police forces?
Well, Alert is, like you said, created in 2006 by the Alberta government. And it has all the police agencies across the province that come together and are integrated and work together. Specifically for my unit, I'm with the Internet Child Exploitation Unit. And there are two units. There's the north and the south. So up in the north, they are comprised of RCMP and Edmonton Police Service. And then here in the south, we have RCMP, Calgary Police Service, Medicine Hat Police Service, Lethbridge Police Service, Tabor Police Service, and Lacombe Police Service. And we cover all from basically from Lacombe south, and then the north has
Right,
all the way.
right. And certainly as we talked about a little bit earlier, I'll be completely honest. Uh, my stomach's in knots right now, just thinking about why we even have to have you on, and why we even need to get in front of parents, kids, and discuss these issues that they're facing on a regular basis. I'm a father of three kids, and I feel that maybe my kids would never fall for something like this, or there would never be any danger to them to going online. But from all the statistics, and even the post on Instagram that got me really curious, that got me to reach out to you, was it read, police warn Alberta parents of a rise in AI generated deepfakes.
Yes, that is correct. There has been a rise lately. Um, but I do agree. Like a lot of families and a lot of parents and a lot of kids don't realize the online harms that are out there right now. And so last year, the Alert ICE unit created the community engagement team, and I jumped at that opportunity. I'd been an investigator. I've been with ICE for about 15 years now, so I've seen the explosion on the internet. And last year, when they created this position, I jumped at the chance to go from being an investigator to a member of this team, just to get out there and talk and present and educate. Because I really believe today it's the education and awareness that's really going to help keep our kids safe.
Right. So you're going to walk us through, I guess, maybe some things that us as parents can be looking out for, and no doubt there's even going to be kids that are listening to this as well, and things that we can um, draw attention to our children, of warning signs. Because I know, like, there's been even phone calls that I've had recently that at the end of that, I think it took a while for me to realize, hey, I don't think I was talking to a human there.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of scams out there nowadays, and especially with AI. And it's not just child exploitation. I mean, everyone has to be concerned about this and keep their wits about them when it comes to receiving phone calls, what they see online, um, because AI has just grown exponentially in the last couple of years. And, there's lots of good that it can be used for, but there's no doubt there's going to be a lot of bad actors that use it for some very nefarious purposes.
Right. So what is, I guess you guys have to jump into the mindset of the person on the other end, that person that we don't know, that person that is attempting to engage our children online. What is their goal?
Well, you know what? That's a tricky question in the sense that there's lots of different motivations between for why offenders uh, do these crimes. Um, some of them are sexually motivated, and some of them are financially motivated. So here at the ICE unit, like our primary mandate is to investigate the online exploitation of children. So that includes all the child pornography offenses, such as possessing, accessing, making available. Just last October, there was legislation passed to finally change the name of child pornography to child sexual abuse and exploitation material. So you'll hear me refer to it as CSAM throughout our conversation today. But yeah, that's child sexual abuse material. So we investigate that, but we also investigate luring when kids are approached online by, it can be typically strangers, but it can also be people that are known to them. And then also voyeurism for anyone under the age of 18 when it hits the internet. And then sextortion has become a huge problem lately and is also one of the reasons that spurred me to take on this new role. Sextortion isn't defined in the criminal code, but it is when people are threatening and extorting children to expose intimate photos for money or more images or videos. So, but with the introduction of AI lately, the kids, you know, sometimes they get sextorted and they do get convinced to send that image, but now with AI, they don't even have to send the image. Those images can just be generated based on information that they get from them.
Right.
So I could talk for hours about this.
Right. Right. And I'm not sure if I can. Like it's just, again, it's just like my stomach's in knots, because so they're either financially motivated to get into the kid's parents' credit card somehow, or manipulating, blackmailing the child and their families not to release certain photos or images, and say, well, you got to send us $1,000 or whatever. Is that what's going on?
Yes. So I don't have the stats right in front of me, but let's just say, like last year, the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, which is a huge resource for parents here in Canada, I think it was between 23 and 2,500 reports of sextortion alone. They get on average 6 a day. I know we have several that have come through our office just here in the South. And I know several kids personally in my personal life that have also been sextorted. So it is, it's very real. It's happening all the time. And it is when typically kids are, so they're out online and they get, and social media has just opened up the door for strangers to approach our children, right? Before the internet, you know, you had to be within proximity of an offender. Now, as soon as they go online, any offender can have access to them. So, but what they'll do is they'll like add them as a friend. For example, on Snapchat, they'll quick add them. And let's say they have two mutual friends. So the child, let's say it's a young boy, a 14-year-old boy, he thinks this person has two mutual friends, so they must be all right. And they get chatting and they'll ask for a picture. So he'll send a picture and they'll send a picture and it's like this beautiful girl, and then ask what they're into. And, you know, they might say football. So they'll come back saying, oh, they love the Calgary Stampeders. And they know to say the Calgary Stampeders because the Snap Map, you know, so they have access, they can see the location of the child, they have an idea of where they're at. And then they'll ask them if they have like an Instagram account. So the child will give them the Instagram account and they'll start following that. And then they'll just, sometimes it can happen honestly in a matter of minutes, a matter of hours, or a matter of days. And they'll get talking and convince the child to send them an intimate picture. And as soon as that child sends that photo, then they send them, that's when the extortion starts. And they'll get a screenshot of the child's Snapchat account, their face, their Instagram followers, and then the intimate photo that they just sent. And they'll say, okay, send me $1,000 right now, or I'm going to ruin your life. I'm going to destroy your world. I'm going to send this to all your friends and family. Are you going to do it now? And then they just barrage them with pressure. It's like very high pressure. And so unfortunately, like when this happens, we have kids that shut them down, go talk to a trusted adult immediately. We have children draining their bank accounts. We have children stealing their parents' credit card because they can use different payment apps or send gift cards.
Right.
But we also have, unfortunately, children who are committing suicide,
Mm.
and because they just don't feel like there's any way out. And then we are adding in the AI component to it now, where the kid doesn't actually have to send the photo. I received a email from a friend the other day about a news media release where a child was sextorted through AI and unfortunately committed suicide as a result. So um, the
Oh,
the technology is crazy. So it's really important. Like our goal right now is just to get out there and just let the world know, like parents and kids know that these threats are out there. There are things that like the internet's not going to go away. So we need to teach our kids how to be safe online. We need to know that those harms are out there and what to do if something does happen. And my number one message to kids is, if something happens online, tell someone.
yeah, like on your Instagram page there as well, it says there's no such thing as a bad app. So we can't sit there and blame TikTok and blame Snapchat and blame Instagram or Facebook or get rid of these. And then it goes on, it says just the bad behavior that occurs on any given platform. And
Yeah.
I think, that's important because I know for a while there, people are like, oh, we need to get rid of TikTok. We shouldn't allow kids on TikTok. And then it's, Instagram and all those things. But it's just the kids' behavior. And I guess that's just such a scary thing because the kid is sent on such an emotional roller coaster right from the start to the end and just devastating. And no doubt some kids really don't have that relationship with their parents
Yeah.
to approach them, and then they're living in this by themselves, and that's very scary.
You hit on so many points there. Like you are right. There's no bad apps. But, you know, uh, there are like bad actors out there that are manipulating these apps. And I can guarantee you, wherever there are kids online, there's predators. So we have had files come through our office on Roblox, on Minecraft, on um, Kids Messenger, even. Like there's just so much out there. I personally, this is just a personal opinion, believe that tech companies can do more. They should be doing more,
For
but
sure. No,
it's
I
not.
know exactly what you're talking about.
But I do
um
agree, right? Like it's not Snapchat, right? It's the people that are on there. Like at the end of the day, it's the offender's fault, right? It's not the child's fault. It's not the victim's fault, right? It's the offenders. But yeah, more can be done there. I know there's lots of people like the Canadian Center for Child Protection and lots of people down in the United States who are fighting for legislation and some changes on the way tech companies do business when it comes to online child exploitation. But again, at the end of the day, it's going to be the parents and the guardians, the community, like they're the first line of defense because by the time it hits our desk, it's already happened. So we really need to get out there. And that's one of the reasons, too, you hit on another point there about why I feel it's important to not only go out and educate parents and the community, but also the kids and let them know that they're not alone. Let them know there is help out there because yeah, not every kid has that relationship with their family or and hopefully they do have a trusted adult somewhere in their life that they can go talk to if something happens.
right. So these predators, motivated financially, like are they typically like they're all over the world? Like are they sometimes local?
Yes, yeah, sometimes it can happen locally. We've had files where it was someone within their own school that was exploiting someone. But and then we have offenders like there's no doubt there's offenders in Canada and North America. I was just on a call with an international working group about sextortion, and we were discussing that, and they are starting to see more offenders in the UK and North America. But there is also a large amount of these scams, so to speak, that are coming out of like West Africa. So Nigeria, the Ivory Coast. There's a lot of offenders over there that are just creating all these fake accounts and exploiting these children. And I can tell you there's law enforcement and people that are working hard to not only, protect children online, but to educate other countries like Nigeria and Ivory Coast. They're working together and they're working hand in hand to try and fight this fight.
And are like it must be sometimes just feels impossible, right? Like when at least if you're fighting some, there's the criminals were in your own backyard and you knew that they're local or whatever, but sometimes it's all you can do is basically educate.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a overwhelming problem. Everyone that works in the world of internet child exploitation, we're all here to help kids and save kids. So it can be overwhelming sometimes. When I started in ICE, we had about 300 files a year, I would say. And it was just getting busier and busier. And then last year we finished with over 2,500 files. That's just here in the South. I think it was somewhere over 5,000 for all of Alberta. And that's not just sextortion. Like we do get other types of files that we investigate and work with. Like a lot of reports come from those electronic service providers, who most of them are based down in the United States, right? Like Meta with Facebook, Instagram, there's Snapchat, Microsoft. All those companies are based in the US where there's a law where they have a duty to report. We have the same type of law here, but we don't have the electronic service provider base that they do. But so they report it to their National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and then it gets disseminated to the appropriate jurisdiction from there. So we get lots of files from there, and then we do have some law enforcement tools that we're able to use to try and help different types of areas, to investigate different types of to investigate different areas of the internet where these offenders are.
Right. Right. So let's say someone like, and I'm just throwing out a country, and if you have another example of a country that you can use, great. Like, are police forces in Nigeria actually busting people for doing this?
Yes, they are. Actually, just yesterday or Monday, I actually got another email. There was a child in the Lower Mainland who had committed suicide after he was sextorted, and I do believe it was last October. Don't quote me on that. Where it was reported that the Nigerian police or law enforcement over in Nigeria had laid charges, and the email I got just this week was that he was convicted because of what happened to that child here in Canada. So yeah, they're trying.
Yeah.
And
Well,
same here, like there's been instances that I know of that I'm aware of down in the US where they've extradited people to the US that have offended. But really there are a lot like that. I mean, that's the sextortion stuff I'm talking about. But we work with law enforcement all around the world all the time. I've had offenders here in Calgary who are offending on kids in the US or different parts of the world, and vice versa. I've had victims here in Alberta, and we actually during the pandemic went to trial with an offender in Melbourne, Australia. But because of the pandemic, we worked together with the courts over there, and the girls were able to testify via secure video, and we were able to secure a conviction there. So
right, for
we're
sure.
we are definitely a united front when it comes to online child exploitation and law enforcement around the world.
Right, and it sounds like the world has taken it seriously, which is awesome because, yeah, you would just hope there was a little bit of fear and a little bit of exposure as to what you guys are doing, and then the punishment that these people do receive. Now, no doubt it's a whole nother conversation as to is the punishment, does it go along with the crime, yeah, we'll leave that for another day. Um, but the so we got the exploitation for financial purposes, but is child learning a big scare? Like, is it a big concern here in
Yeah,
Alberta?
I mean, luring it is there's just so many dangers online. But I mean, I could give examples of children who have been lured online and they've met up with people that they've met online, like children that are meeting up with adults. It does happen. It has happened. We have, files before the courts right now um, regarding that kind of stuff, or going through or have gone through. So, it's really important that, when you have these conversations with your kids, just, um, help them recognize any red flags, right? A lot of times these people, they'll try to move the child to a different platform. And I'm talking young children, they can be 8 years old and playing Roblox, right? Or 15, 16 years old and they're on Snapchat and they're everywhere. So just know, if they're trying to move them over to another platform, a more secure or private, where it's more anonymous, that's a red flag. When they're asking too many personal questions, right? That's a red flag. Basically the best way to keep yourself safe is, if unless you know that person in real life, you really have to take those extra steps to make sure that they are who they say they are. And, work with your kids to go through any apps that they are on to set the privacy settings, to prevent people from being able to access certain information that you just don't want out there.
Right. So, like, what's the youngest child that you've seen lured online? Like you said eight. You did say an 8-year-old playing Roblox, and that'd be horrific. It's horrific, obviously horrific at any age, but like, are we talking, you know, to the point where they're like, 10 and upwards, or is it sometimes even younger that a child gets lured into
Yeah,
a
it can be
situation?
younger. It can be younger. It's I know it's scary, but yeah, because so many kids are given devices nowadays. I did a presentation for a grade 3, 4 class not too long ago, and they were super engaged and they were fabulous kids. But when I asked how many have cell phones, there was probably half the class.
Hmm.
And then I asked how many had Snapchat, and there's about half the class, right? And you know, so kids are getting access to all this stuff well before they, in my personal opinion, should be. You know, even the rules for a lot of these platforms are supposed to be 13 and older.
Yeah, they got to fudge the age a little bit, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but so I mean, they're at risk, and when it comes to predators online, we see all kinds of um, child exploitation here in our office, um, of all ages. And but when it comes to kids being online, there is a risk there. Society, like parents, community, everyone needs to know this. I do think there's a shift. I do believe there is a shift happening because it's a topic that nobody really likes to talk about. And so the fact that there are starting to have more conversations about this, some people are starting to understand the push for the legislation, like the banning the cell phones in schools, right? It's not just because of child sexual abuse material, right? It's just because of the harms, period, that technology and screens and social media are doing to our kids. And I think people are starting to see that, by removing the phones from the classrooms. Every teacher I've talked to said the kids are more engaged again. And then there's other things outside of my wheelhouse that are also concerns, like cyberbullying, right?
Hmm.
Cyberbullying, the sexual exploitation of children. It's just cyberbullying.
Yes.
And back in the day, a child could, if they were bullied at school, they could go home to a safe place. And now with social media, it just follows them home. And over in Australia, they just passed legislation to ban social media for anyone under the age of 16. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions about that, but how successful will it be? How will it work? But I think it's a huge win at the end of the day, just because to me that signifies that the people are seeing the dangers of kids being online, and so we're starting to take those steps. But it's going to take some more time and a lot of effort from the fighters here.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you raised that point, because I think the average person, when they heard that they're taking the cell phones, away, we just thought, a distraction in class, and then B, using it as a tool to help them out while they're in school, as opposed, not necessarily the social media aspect as well. And you just look at the power of social media and how quickly numbers can be raised and how quickly word can spread. Typically, the negative images or whatever travel faster than anything positive. And kids these days, yeah, like even for me, like with having the cell phone there all the time, and using it to drive, to map, and sometimes I don't, you're just not thinking, you're not engaged, or if you have a question that you're trying to remember, oh, what was that actress's name, and you don't even have to like really work your brain anymore. You're just like, oh, I'm just going to type it in, and oh, there's the answer. Or yes, Surrey, right? The um, yeah, it's a huge concern. So, what would you say to a parent whose kids are just starting, or kids that are a little bit, they've had it for a while? What would you do as a parent if you were just kind of starting out and starting to introduce?
Well, I am a parent, so I can tell you that it's a lot of work. It's exhausting, even knowing what I know and doing what I do,
Yeah, I know.
right? It's a
Yeah.
lot of work because you're competing with what the social norm is now. So, but my best advice is once you know about this, like about the dangers, just have those conversations with your kids. So as soon as you give them a device, you need to be having conversations about good digital citizenship, right? What to do if you come across something online. If you're giving a 6-year-old access to YouTube or, something, they could and probably will come across something that is inappropriate. It might not be
Yes.
illegal, but it's inappropriate.
Yes.
So there's lots of resources out there. The Canadian Centre for Child Protection, the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children. They've got great resources about what parents can do to have these conversations with their kids, right from, at a very young age up to, teenagers, young adults. It's really important to have these conversations, and not just not just a one and done conversation. These need to be ongoing conversations, right? These, and age appropriate. And as a parent, you're going to be the one that knows what that age appropriateness is. But
Hmm.
I can tell you, it's going to be uncomfortable. Maybe not with the 6-year-olds about digital responsibility, but there's kids in grade 5 and 6 that are getting sextorted. We had a child up in Prince George, BC. He was 12 years old when he committed suicide because he was sextorted.
Mm.
So we need to have these uncomfortable conversations with our kids, and we need to recognize that they probably know more about this stuff like online than we do.
Right.
So we just need to have those continual conversations, be involved, talk to them about what platforms are on, who they're talking to. It can be very overwhelming, but there is lots of resources out there.
Right. Is there something you can, and this is really putting you on the spot, and I'm sorry to do this, but is there some resource? Like, is there a YouTube documentary? Is there a Netflix program that we could sit down together as a family and watch and see what actually is going on behind the scenes behind some of these apps?
There is just so much out there.
Is there?
There is so much out there. I just listened to the podcast Arachnid by the Canadian Center. It involved the Canadian Center for Child Protection and their program to try and help fight the fight. I just listened to another podcast about sextortion with some investigators down in the U.S. There's lots of foundations out there, like the Carly Ryan Foundation. They're based out of Australia, but they have lots of resources and app fact sheets. There's, I know my counterparts in the North quite often rely on the Saffron Center, which they also have some great resources about privacy settings, and how to set those settings.
Yes.
And if you go looking for it, you will find lots of stories and resources and shows. And is there a one for all? I can't think of one on.
No, fair enough. Yeah, no, but there's certainly out there.
Kids,
Yes. Yeah. No, I think it was Netflix that had a show a few years back, just kind of showing the dangers of online activity and the things that can happen. So it's certainly something that parents need to educate themselves, and hopefully that services like you guys are drawing awareness. I know this is you're doing a great job through. I guess maybe through the Instagram, because that's where I first saw you, and what you guys are promoting, and what a great thing to tie police agencies all over, not just Alberta but the entire world, to bring the messages like this. And this is only one aspect of what Alert does, and it certainly seems like it is a very beneficial program that the Alberta government did put in place. Now, I would hope that you are fighting fire with fire, and you're using AI to find these suckers out there.
So I think that might be a conversation for another podcast.
Yeah, no kidding, hey? Because I'm sure that, just the way that the technology is going around. My son was showing me some videos yesterday of people saying certain things. I'm like, I don't know if that person would actually say that. I don't think so. And sure enough, it was AI generated, and it's
so
very
real. It is so real nowadays. It's
absolutely. It's very, very scary. Yes. Yeah. So, and I think I'm getting pretty good to recognize when I'm talking to an AI on the phone, but I still not 100% sure sometimes when I hang up, and then I think about the conversation a little bit more and saying that seemed a little bit too canned. Yeah. So,
and you think about what AI was like 2 years ago, it wasn't anywhere near what it is today. And so, I kind of dread what it's going to look like in another 2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Like extortion, we started hearing about it a few years ago. It has since exploded. And now we're just, we're starting to hear about AI. So I fear what we're going to be fighting in about 5 years' time.
Right. Right.
So I will let my comms people know that they're doing a great job on Instagram.
Oh, yes, they are doing a great job. And Heather, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service to, no doubt, it's not just Alberta. It's right across the world when you're combining with other police forces and trying to find these predators. And we do thank you for your service.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide some more of that education and awareness.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Heather.
Take care.
Bye-bye.